All right. Welcome to the first episode of the Pondo cast. Today, our special guest, we're super happy he could come, is Mr.Beatty. For those of the students who don't know you, tell us a little about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Mr.Beatty. My first name's Joseph. I go by Joey typically. I teach English here at Pondo. Let's see. Currently I teach English 1, so freshman English, AP Literature, and ERWC, or the Expository Reading and Writing course. So that's my role here. I also coach. Here's a little plug for my club. I coach the academic decathlon team. So if anyone's interested, come talk to me. I'm in room H12.
And about how long have you been teaching?
This is my 4th year here at Pondo. It's actually my 4th year teaching as well. This is my first official teaching job. I always like to include my year of student teaching I did, though. I student taught at Cordova High School down the hill in Rancho, so I always like to include that because I feel like, I had some classes there, taught those classes, they were my students, so I like to include that.
Right, that's awesome. So you're a Bruin at heart then?
I'm a Bruin at heart.
So going right along with teaching, do you have any funny, interesting, crazy stories about teaching here at Pondo?
Funny, interesting. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let Isaac tell a story. Okay, here's my story. My story, I'm just going to say 2 words, 7th period. That wasn't even your class, Isaac, but anyone who's been in one of a couple of 7th period classes that I've had probably knows what I mean. It can be a little wild in an English class, 7th period, freshman year, right, last class of the day sometimes. So Isaac, why don't you help me out with this one? You were in my class.
So Mr. Beatty was actually my teacher, 5th period of my freshman year, and I had multiple friends in this class as a freshman, so I did talk a lot. But he was a great guy to us and was always nice and always helped us learn. But there was one day that we went into class, and we have a friend named Dylan, and Mr. Beatty asked him to be quiet one time. And for the rest of the block period, for about 2.5 hours, he sat there and stared at him, laughing.
Wait. Clarify. Who stared at who?
Oh, no, so...
That is not how I spent the block period as a teacher.
So Dylan looked at Mr. Beatty the whole time after he asked him to be quiet one time, and we all found it hilarious. The whole class was laughing, and I do miss that class a lot. It was a good time.
It was a good class, yeah. I think I just kind of moved on, right? And we kept reading what we were reading. I think we were reading out loud something.
I think we were learning Lord of the Flies at the time.
Lord of the Flies is your sophomore year, so it would have been something different.
Nope, it wasn't
class.
Lord of the Flies.
Romeo and Juliet, maybe?
Romeo and Juliet.
It's possible.
That's
End
what
of the school
was.
year.
Yep. I do remember that.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have a great answer for that. That's a tough one.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I've had lots of stories.
It's all good. We'll go into the next one then. So, you actually stated this earlier, but what extracurricular activities are you involved in?
Okay.
Could you tell us more about your extra program?
Yeah. Like about academic decathlon?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Because I always heard about this as a freshman, and I had a few friends that joined it, and it was talked about very highly, so I'd like to hear more about it.
Okay, yeah, so it's a hard club. It's a club technically, right? It's a hard club to describe in a super appealing way, because when you describe it sort of just by defining it, you say, okay, yeah, you study 7 different subjects for, the better part of the school year, and then you compete by testing on those subjects, by taking, like objective tests, and it's super fun, right? And when people hear that, okay, I have to study 7 subjects and test on them, and you're trying to get me to join this club, right? Doesn't sound like the most appealing, but it really is a lot of fun. People from, all GPA levels, all backgrounds join the club and have a lot of fun. So we do study 7 different subjects, but I think, whether you know it or not, everybody likes learning and expanding your sort of, base of what you know.
Of course.
And that happens just regardless. No matter how committed to the club you are, you're going to learn some really interesting stuff. You're also going to make some friends and see a lot of motivated people and leaders at our school. Mm-hmm. And it becomes quite competitive, and I like that it's a competition of the mind and not a physical competition, which I'm not the most athletic guy on the planet. So,
and that's awesome.
I've always thought it'd be funny if I wore a whistle around my neck and made them call me coach, right? While we're studying, say like funny. The history of the Cold War or something. But it's a lot of fun. It's a really great club. So those of you out there who aren't, graduating this year, even if you are, there's still time to come hop on the boat before we finish up the year. But yeah. consider the club. It's a lot of fun, and it looks really good on college apps and resumes and stuff like that.
That's great for people that actually thrive or don't even thrive in academics. They just find joy in it in some way. And it's a club that anyone can join. And it's not like a sports team where you're going to have a tryout. Anyone's going to be accepted. And if you want to do it, you can do it. So hit up Mr. Beatty if you guys want to join.
Room H12. It's a great club. We have a lot of fun.
Tell us more about what the competitions are like.
So the competition, it's typically held in the beginning of February. We have a county competition, so we compete against Oak Ridge, El Dorado, and Union Mine, so our schools in our district. Our big competitor is usually Oak Ridge. So Pondo had a long winning streak, something like 25 years, where they won that county competition, like 25 consecutive years in a row. And then some years back, they lost to Oak Ridge, and Oak Ridge has held that torch ever since. So this year, we've been very close to taking the torch back the last 3 years, but we haven't quite done it. So we're really, really hoping this year people are dedicated, having some incredible practices, hoping that we can win that.
And then when you guys do win counties, do you move on to the next
There's a
section?
state level competition. So I, as the coach, have not had the chance to do that yet. I'm hoping this year is the year that breaks that pattern. But I know this year is going to be quite a bit different too, because our competition, rather than in person, is going to be virtual this year. So state, I believe, will be the same. So definitely a different year, but still high hopes and doing the best we can.
Yeah, and that's awesome. You guys work for the whole year almost, and then, you want to win that competition. It's huge, so I'm sure that means the world to you if you guys could secure one of those.
I think it'll be great. I'm just going to keep saying we're going to win it this year. It's going to be a good
awesome.
one. Yeah.
All right, so the next topic is actually one that I'm really interested in.
Okay.
Is we know that you're pretty into music, and I'm into music too. I play guitar. I've started making my own music, so this is something that I can probably relate to a lot. But tell us about your kind of music.
Yeah,
what you're
awesome.
into.
This is my favorite question. So, yeah, I guess at the beginning when you said tell us a little bit about yourself, I only talked about what I do here. I didn't talk about myself or my interests, but music is one of my biggest interests for sure. I mean, aside from my job and my family, absolutely music is the biggest thing to me. So I'm a guitar player. I've been playing since I was 11. I remember when I was 11 years old. My mom had been trying to get me interested in learning some instrument. Like my sister played piano, my brother played clarinet, and I grew up with 4 older siblings in the 90s, and so inevitably I was pretty into rock music. So I was drawn to guitar from probably like 5 or 6 years old, listening to bands like Smashing Pumpkins and Built to Spill and Nirvana,
Awesome.
all this great 90s stuff that I love to this day. But anyways, so got me interested in guitar, and I remember I told my mom I wanted to learn guitar, and I thought they'd be like, no, we want you to learn something, maybe, I don't know, just something else. Maybe
Something
piano.
more classical.
Maybe something more classical, right? But luckily, both my parents were super supportive. I got I remember it so well. I have it somewhere. It's a 3/4 size little acoustic guitar that I got for my 11th birthday. I'll never forget it, and I'll never let it go either. So yeah, after that, I got that for my birthday, and it was just like a obsession from then on.
Magic touch ever since.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so my parents were kind enough to get me weekly lessons for a while through I think 6th and 7th grade. I did guitar lessons.
Cool.
So I got to learn a bit.
Learn all the
theory.
basics.
What's that?
Learn all the basics.
Yeah, learn the basics. Not much, actual music theory,
Yeah.
but I'm able to sort of understand some
Fretboard.
technicalities about music. But for the most part, I've always been a player by ear. Other than those 2 years of weekly lessons, or maybe about a year and a half, just kind of played on my own. I've always enjoyed. Dean, you mentioned you like to make your own music. That has been my biggest motivation in music since I started. But I think I remember 8th grade. I started trying to write my own songs. And, I definitely don't remember any of them, and I'm glad I don't, because it'd be pretty embarrassing. But I remember, writing lyrics in a notebook and, actually trying to put lyrics to chord progressions and how difficult that was at first.
And the rhythm was just so hard to find. You would
what's that?
play
Say
and
it
nothing would match up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough. Yeah, exactly. Trying to fit, syllable counts with it. But it's such a fun skill to work on. And for me, it was always purely... what's the word? Intrinsically motivated. It's just a thing I've always wanted to do for myself. So I was always motivated to do it, and I've always enjoyed doing it.
And that makes a lot of sense why you're an English teacher.
Yeah.
Because all the syllable counts, and I think you were really into the lyric part of it a lot of times, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Are you still making any music on the side at all, like create like original stuff?
I do, yeah. It's something I think that I'll always do. I've never really stopped. I remember when I was 16, for the first time I bought some recording equipment for my computer. I bought this interface that I actually had to install into my desktop, whereas today it's quite a bit easier to find stuff that's external. But started recording music on my own at that point, and that's what really got me into making music, because it became so fun as a guitar player specifically.
And you saw it going
too.
somewhere.
What's that?
You saw it going somewhere.
Well, I saw how much fun it was to layer melodies.
And I
really,
feel like
that's been one of my favorite aspects of recording music, is layering melodies and creating something new, because so often you're playing alone, and so recording kind of allows you to almost collaborate with yourself in a way, and it's a lot of fun. I still do that to this day. I don't often share my music, but that's, like I said earlier, it's something I've always done just for myself, for my own fulfillment, and I love it. I play guitar every day, and I record music as much as I can.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of people pick up music because of the challenge. It's so hard. You have to learn so much before you can even play a basic song. I play the bass myself, so growing up playing that, and with my grandpa playing the guitar, you're just learning new stuff every day, and that's why I love it so much, because there's just more and more stuff you can make and learn constantly. There's never an end to it. You can get better and better, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've been playing now for over 20 years, and I'm still always trying to push myself to figure out a new technique, or try to, not fossilize, not just get into playing the same patterns and the same stuff. So even last night, at night, I'll take an electric guitar and I'll sit on my couch, and I don't have it plugged in, but I'll just be playing the same, riff or whatever over and over and over again, just to kind of keep my fingers warmed up and try to challenge myself with new ideas and new, learning new songs and stuff like that all the time.
That's something that my first guitar teacher always taught me. He's like, honestly, if you want to get good, just watch TV and practice the same thing all the time. Just keep practicing, watching TV, reading a book while you're doing it. Just anything to get that muscle memory down.
Absolutely, yeah. I do that every day. You can ask my 6-year-old daughter if she would attest to this. She'll be like, "Yeah, my dad sits on the couch and plays his electric guitar and stares at the wall." She would probably criticize me for it.
That's what you gotta do.
I know she likes it though.
Okay, and so before we leave, we have one more question for Mr. Beatty. A segment that we're going to try to do on every episode is having the guest of each podcast give the listeners and viewers a piece of advice, not just for school, but for life, and like something that could be remembered and useful like throughout your whole life. So with that being said, what piece of advice do you have for the viewers, Mr. Beatty?
So that's a big question, but luckily these guys previewed that question with me, so I got some time to think about it. And really, I'm going to connect it back to what we were just talking about. Other than don't wear headphones when you don't need to, that's probably some good advice. I was just wearing those for no real reason.
There you go.
I had to fit that in. But honestly, connecting it back to what I was just saying about playing music, and for myself, what that does for me and what it's done for me since I was 11, it's really given me something to kind of fall back on. And I don't mean that in any kind of financial sense, or like, what I mean is it gives me something that keeps me happy, keeps me motivated, and keeps me energized. It's a way for me to kind of deal with stress if I go home and I just play guitar and kind of just focus on music for a little while. And I think that's something that's super important. So my advice really is I'm going to kind of connect it to being a kid too, right? Because I started playing guitar when I was young, and it does the same thing for me now that it did for me when I was 11, right? It makes me happy in the same way, comforts me in the same way. And so I think a lot of people kind of give up on their hobby, or something that they did when they were younger that maybe isn't productive in an adult sense, right? But I think that, I may not be making any money off of playing guitar or taking it anywhere other than just doing it for something that I love. And I think there's something so important about holding on to your hobbies, the things that make you tick, that make you you, and don't be distracted from those by becoming too busy in life, right? People get so busy, and it's really important to take time for yourself to slow down and let yourself do the things you love. And I think you'll be a lot happier, and that bleeds out into the rest of a person's life. That's my advice.
And that's great advice. That is something everybody can use. 100%.
I would hope so. And if it's a musical instrument, in my opinion, even better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, whatever makes you happy, make sure to never drop that in life. You know, if there's something that you can specifically do from a young age to even when, you know, you're a father or a mother, don't drop it. You know, the things that make you happy in life are something you should definitely keep around.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
And to add on to that point, I also think goes right along with what you're saying, is don't let people take that away from you either.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who will say, like, with music, for example, it's not going to get you anywhere. You should just give up and work harder,
Right.
like at your job or something. And it's without something that keeps you feeling free and keeps you feeling happy, your whole life will end up not being productive. People like to say, oh, you should stop doing this thing to be more productive in something that'll make you money. But if you're not having fun anywhere in your life, you'll end up being even less productive.
What's the point then, right?
Exactly.
That's absolutely what I've always thought. You know, of course, like success in a more traditional sense is important. Of course, that's important.
Always,
it's important to find a job that's gonna get you a good livelihood and that you enjoy and that you love. But at the same time, it is also so important to think about. I'm going to say the word important too many times, but other things that are important that may not have something to do with, like furthering yourself along in life. It's just about fulfilling yourself and feeling kind of free and happy and alive. And that's big.
Yeah, and if it's, you jumping on your skateboard at the end of the day or you sitting down and plugging your guitar into the amp, you have to keep doing those things if you love them, and you shouldn't drop them for anybody because whatever makes you happy, nobody else is going to just replace that feeling. Remember that.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, that reminds me, Isaac, you bring up skateboarding. That's another thing I used to do a lot when I was a kid. I was all about skateboarding when I was in middle school and high school, and I stopped for a long time. And then in my maybe mid-20s, I picked up went and bought a board. I hadn't had one in a while and started skateboarding. And I was like, for one thing, things that I used to be able to do, they came back to me, which I couldn't believe. And I realized, it kind of connects to that same idea. I loved this when I was a kid for a particular reason, and that's still a part of me, right? And it's super fun. Now, I don't skateboard very often these days. I would like to. Something I'd like to do a little bit more often.
It takes a toll on your body, for sure.
It sure does. But, to illustrate that same point, it's something I want to start doing again, for sure.
And that's actually something that me and Mr. Beatty talked about when I was in his class freshman year. Skateboarding, and, it's awesome to some people. Some people don't get it because you're always falling and eating the concrete. But again, it's just like playing the guitar. You learn a new song, you're accomplishing something. You land a new trick, you're accomplishing something. And at the end of the day, you're going to have a smile on your face, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
And I really like the solitary pursuit, of both. Well, I guess you can play music with others for sure. You can skateboard with other people. But when it comes down to it, it's about, you're kind of competing with yourself.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And I really like that about it.